Hello, my friends. This is Kathleen from Be Again Books, and I want to share this fun element that does triple duty in a junk journal. It's a one-page wonder. I think you know something about those. Maybe it just takes one sheet of 12 by 12 scrapbook paper, and this is even just single side, so you don't need to worry about a double-sided piece, and it has two pockets, journaling space, and is a decoration for the page as well. So let me show you how this one looks. So this is how it works. It folds down. It has a double pocket here at the bottom for ephemera here, and this little tag here to the side. And it has this great big journaling space that opens up, and this little top flap that keeps it all together. So yeah, I think it's kind of cute, and I just wanted to share how that works. And then it just clips on a page in the journal, and I'll show you that a little later too. So let me show you how this works. So here are the measurements, the folds, and the cuts. So the first thing you do for the 12 by 12 is you cut off 1 inch at the side. So however you want it to look in the middle, right side up. So if you have a directional paper, you kind of need to have it right side up. And then you cut off of one side a strip, and that brings the measurement down to 11 inches side to side. Then you're going to fold at 3 3/4 and again at 7 3/4. Now some of you have a nice big scoreboard. I only have a small scoreboard, so I just score mine by measuring against the edge of my guillotine cutter. So I measure in 3 3/4, and then I bend it over the edge to give me a score, and then I move it over to 7 3/4 and bend it again against the edge. And then you're going to want to turn, okay? And then you measure in 4 1/2, and again either score it or draw lines and use a ruler. And then again at 10 inches, okay? So let me just hold that for a minute. You can take a screenshot of that or a screenshot of this, because I have it measured, and this first one cut so that you can see how to fold it. So then you're going to want to take scissors, and at the bottom you cut in from the side on that first, fold. And I have highlighted the folds with distress ink so that you can see them. But I will give you a little tip. If you will cut just beyond the fold on either side, then when it folds up, then it won't, push and wrinkle. Okay, so you make the first 2 cuts here, and I'm going to demonstrate this on the second one. I just kind of wanted to do this first one to give you an idea how it looks. So you make the cut in from both sides on the bottom, and then you do the same thing up here. You cut in from both sides at the top. And again, you can see that if you take just this little piece, then when it folds later, then that won't be quite so much bulk to get around. Okay. And then the second cut you make is here at the bottom to make the pocket. So you come down about 1/2 inch and cut at a diagonal. up to the corner. And the same on the other side. You can come maybe just a little bit more than 1/2 inch, but then you cut at a diagonal in. And that creates all the cuts you need. So you take these little bits and pieces and you don't need these anymore. Okay, so now I have a second one and we'll demonstrate all of those cuts in just a minute, but let me show you how this then goes together. So I want this to clip on the left-hand side of the page. So I want my pocket to come left over right so that the opening is on this side. I want to do a little circle divot in this side, so I'm going to take a scrap and put it along that edge and then just cut out that little thumb notch right there. And let's give it some distress. Now, I will give you another tip when you're using the distress. If you're going to ink, be really careful at these corners because otherwise they can start to tear. And then let's glue this down. So if you want, you can create a little gusset down here, but I don't find that necessary really. So I don't generally do that. And I don't want to glue up here, so right about here is where I'm going to start gluing, just for that top pocket. And then I'll come in just a little bit there to finish gluing that side. Okay, and then we'll glue the bottom. Now, some of you might be a little bit OCD. That wouldn't surprise me, because I also am sometimes. So after you do all of these cuts, sometimes you have a little bit of white showing on this side. So if you're an inker, you can just kind of cover that up. But if you're not, you might want to just trim that off just a little bit to make that even. Okay, so then this is what folds up, and these two are now going to fold in. There's that little bit. Okay, so I'm going to want to round the corners of these two pages and finish them off. And I like to ink, and so again I'm going to be really careful as I try to get those corners and then finish around the edges. Okay, so now all that's left is to glue this top flap down. And you can decide whether you want the long side or the short side. I think I prefer the long side on top, so I'll glue that down first and then the long side on top. Then I'll round these corners as well and finish that with a little inking, right? And then give that a really nice crease. And that's essentially, that's what it looks like. And you can do some other decorating if you want. You can decorate this, or you can do some decorating inside, some stenciling, or I have a little tag here for the pocket. And I think because there's a little bit of stenciling on that, I think I'll go ahead and just maybe do a bit of stenciling in here. And maybe a stamp right there for the top. Okay, that looks good. So now we fold it up, and now we need to put the closure on. And I am just going to use this sticker, and then I'm going to cut it with my circle punch. And then distress the edge. And then I want to put this brad just as a little bit of texture right in the middle. I'll just use the awl and poke a hole right there. And you just need to put the glue on the bottom half. And then that just slides out and back in, and that holds it closed. Yeah, I like that. Okay, let me show you how that looks. This is going to finish off this steampunk journal, and I have a spot right here. So because my little tag is not sticking out, see this one's sticking out, so it would have to go on this side. This one could go on either side because the tab is really not sticking out on that little tag. So since it's covered, I think that I will, put it on this side. So I just slide that, and there it is. That's going to finish this up, and I'll do a flip through of that journal in a couple of weeks. Okay, so let's just make this one really quick. I have already followed the directions to cut the side off, and then I have done the measuring and the turning and done the folds. So that much is done. Now I need to do the cuts. So this small fold is at the top, so we'll start with the bottom and make the pocket. And remember, I'm going to cut just barely on the side of that fold. Okay, and now I'm going to cut the pocket. So I'll do this first one, come down about 1/2 inch, and come up, and then we'll come over on this side about 1/2 inch, and come up to the point. Okay, I want to take a round corner on that side. And let's do the inking, being careful, and then we'll overlap and glue the bottom pocket. And then I'll just glue a little bit here at the top to put those two pieces together. Okay, now for the top, again, we'll cut just above the fold. And just below the fold, take that little piece out. To round these corners. And do the inking. Okay, so there's that journaling space, and then we'll do the top. Okay, so I have just this little, this was a business card from an Etsy seller that I use, and I'm just going to put that in as a little journaling space. You can see that I've kind of sanded the image. I've cut off the business part, and then I have this pretty little vintage tea card as well. So I'm going to put those two things in this pocket, and then fold it up and fold it down, and then this is the closure that I'm going to use. This is a Tim Holtz die cut, and so we'll put the glue just on the bottom as a closure. So there's a pretty little floating pocket, and that will just go in my stash. Flips open, flips down. Let's put a stamp there. Love it. So that's the double floating pocket with journaling space, one sheet wonder element for junk journals. I hope that's helpful. I think it's kind of cute, and I hope you will too. If you like this video or this project, I hope you'll give me a like and maybe share it with somebody else who might enjoy it. Thanks for being with me, and I'll see you again with a new project.